Phew! It's 2021. Finally. Now, 2020 was a lot of fun. It really was. And 2021 will be better. Let's explore. Hello everyone und willkommen im zweiten Jahr der Wuhanischen Apokalypse. Or, in more boring terms, welcome to year 6, Anno Trudeau. I wish you all a happy new year and hopefully you've been partying responsibly. And by that I mean what I mean every year, namely that you didn't drink too much and didn't do too many drugs. Now, 2020 was a mixed bag. We got some things that we could not have dreamed of just 1 year ago, but at the same time, some of the things we were pretty sure we could do had to be postponed. I mean, 1 year ago I was saying that hopefully we get to expand the team a little bit, make the website slightly more useful and maybe cover Sweden a little bit. We ended up doing all of that, but we ended up not doing the Gulag tour because of this little fluffy cough. And that turned out to be a good decision in the end, because while getting into those countries was very easy, Kazakhstan kept the gulags closed. I mean, really, the places least likely to give you the coof were closed, because that's how governments work. Anyway, with that said, we got the World SOFA report going, which on January the 1st, 2020 was a stretch goal. The team got bigger than even the stretch goal imagined a year ago. We got all of the equipment we wanted for 2020, so all in all, I really cannot complain. The emergence of this particular fluffy cough has changed the order of things a little bit. For instance, I would have wanted to start judicial activism towards the end of this year, but the inevitable abuses by panic-card governments at the behest of panic-card plebs has forced that project to start a little bit earlier. The initial plan would have been to launch the initiative on January the 1st, 2021, and tell you how glorious it's going to be. Well, we had to move it several months earlier. As of right now, people associated with this operation are involved in 31 lawsuits in 4 countries, most of them in Romania though. And throughout 2020, people associated with the SOFA have won 11 lawsuits out of 11 filed, all of them COVID-19 related. In addition to that, our people, including yours truly, contributed to 5 successful constitutional challenges out of 8 attempts in 2 countries. So, I will say it's not bad at all, given that we didn't plan any of that for 2020, as the infrastructure for judicial activism was far from complete and destined to be used in 2021. Now, with that said, I had to make a major decision in 2020 that affected this channel negatively in particular, namely to move focus, oftentimes almost entirely on Romania. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't regret it, even though that attracted some criticism, but I don't regret it because, you know, you should clean up your own room first and then change the world. And we did. We managed to flatten the ruling party, which was expected to rule alone after the election. Well, a few people from the SOFA had a different opinion. Also, unlike 2016, when we had marginal involvement in the Romanian parliamentary election, this time it also mattered. And I will take this occasion to thank everyone who took part in the tremendous work that hundreds of fans, members and associates of this operation have put into the election campaign. Y'all wrote a page in the history book. It will become self-evidently true throughout 2021, you'll see. So with that, let's focus on the year that is just beginning. So as usual, the categories are as follows. Things that will happen, things very likely to happen but still unsure about it, 3 things that are just as unlikely to happen as they are likely, 4 stretch goals, and 5 wildcards, threats, and other miscellaneous. So from the things that will happen, I can already announce 3 of them. The first will be more judicial activism and a few noticeable wins. Some of the challenges we filed towards the end of 2020 will get their day in court throughout this year, and with that we will create new jurisprudence. This will be very helpful for everyone living under civil law, that is to say, all of continental Europe. Now, once that happens, and it will, we will then be able to create patterns of arguing that can then be used in other countries as well. Now, speaking of which, I also owe you a video on the Portuguese case with the PCR tests. Now, I will do that too, though I'm stalling because I intend to test that argument in court in 2 other countries, just so I can be sure that it is doable. Secondly, with the election season in Romania now over, there is time to focus on other elections. My eyes are on Germany, quite frankly. Angela Merkel is stepping down, and the more fragmented Bundestag and even a slight flattening of both CDU and SPD are indeed doable for the first time really since I guess 2013. I mean, yeah, sure, 2017 saw some slight flattening, but nowhere near enough. This time, however, at least in my opinion, there is a much better context. Now, I know I can be of use, so yeah, do expect something from this operation to include Germany. And thirdly, the continuation of the series Knowing Romania, which I did start and haven't worked on it lately. I actually did gather a lot of footage in 2020 for that series, but I just didn't have the time to put them together for videos. Now I do have slightly more time, so expect new episodes from that. Number 2, things very likely to happen but still unsure about it. And here I will put the 3 Seas Initiative Summit in Sofia. It's going to be in June, and unlike 2020, it's very likely going to take place physically. And unlike 2020, it's in Bulgaria, which means it's highly accessible to me. Also, unlike 2020, this year is a lot more important for the initiative itself. Now, new faces shall appear at the summit, and for our purposes, it's important that we get to meet them. The only threat, really, is if the Bulgarians suddenly find some reservoir of panicardism in them. But given that Bulgaria treated this little cough very lightly, I'm pretty confident that the summit will be held as I expect it to be. Other than that, logistics is okay, the shekels are there, equipment is available, so yeah, very likely to happen, but slightly unsure just in case the Bulgarian presidency decides to act differently. And again, Bulgaria throughout 2020 had huge protests, some would say instigated by the presidency, crowded stadia, and so on and so forth. So it's highly unlikely that they'll accept an online summit, not to mention that it is in their best interest for the summit to be held, physically. Well, I guess we'll find out in a few months, in 5 months or so, probably less than that. Also, in this category, I should put in a new series. The only problem is to find the time slots necessary. As it may be clear, I'm still recovering from the tiresome activity that I pursued between August and December, so give it a bit of time. But I really want another series on this channel besides the World So Far Report and Knowing Romania. Something to replace research and analysis, but also to be policy focused. There are quite a few overarching discussions. No, not overarching. What's the word I'm looking for? Maybe meta discussions? Yeah, I guess meta discussions would be a better descriptor. It's discussions that take place without immediate goals, which is fine, but some of them are, toxic and useless. And I want to dissect a few of those. Anyway, we'll see. Once I come up with a name, you'll all know. I already have 2 or 3 scripts written, so yeah, it's probably going to happen. Number 3, things that are just as unlikely to happen as they are likely. And here are, well, for the most part, it's interviews. Now, throughout 2020, and this will be the case in 2021 as well, I brought in a lot of new guests on the Romanian language channel. Of course, now I want to do the same on this channel too. But that depends on too many factors. Chief among them being that I'm strongly against online interviews, and for a multitude of reasons, starting with the fact that almost never is the case for the other person to have a decent internet connection. Nevertheless, I have a few personalities in mind who speak English, have something interesting to say, and hopefully I'll get to bring them here. Also, there is a particular guest I brought in 2018 that I want to bring back this year, hopefully in March. Then there is the issue of video quality. Although much has improved in the previous years, anything further than this is not just expensive but also tricky from a space perspective. I have a few promises, but as with all promises, even from otherwise trustworthy people, it is fair to be prepared for the situation when, well, when the promises are not being delivered. Number 4, stretch goals. Well, this is where I put the wish list, I guess. One of the things I really want to see this year, and it seems unlikely as of right now, is to get someone to manage the website. Just like we finally found someone to take care of the graphics and for the thumbnails and more of that, for which I shall be eternally grateful. Well, something like that would be needed for the website as well. I do need to delegate that because publishing the podcasts, both the Romanian one and World So Far Report, takes up a lot of time. Time which would be better spent creating new stuff. For instance, as of right now, there are extra 3 hours or so that I spend in publishing a podcast. That is to say, excluding the time waiting for YouTube or BitChute to process the videos. This could be streamlined if I could find someone to take care of the website aspect. I have an idea about how to do this, how it could be done, so it would eat up less than an hour on another person, but the biggest achievement would be that the whole process would be faster and less tiresome, because at least extra 45 minutes are spent with the texts and graphs, which I have to think about when I'm already tired after editing. So instead of 3 hours overall, it would take less than 2 hours in between 2 people. So yeah, well, as I said, it is a stretch goal after all. Also here in the stretch goals category, I should also add, well, better tribe management. And I'm only half joking. With the growth in the extended team, there will be some management challenges that I'm not sure they can be met in due time, but it would be great if they could, which is why it's a stretch goal. In the likely case that they won't, though, we'll just use the known path, namely to slow down the growth to the available capacity. Unmanaged growth is worse than no growth for such operations. I mean, there are many defunct organizations or think tanks or indeed political parties that can attest to that, namely that they grew faster than they could absorb or manage that particular growth. And finally, number 5, wildcards, threats, and other miscellaneous. Now, in the wildcards department, I should put the possibility of covering Moldova. That would be the country. This is a wild card because 2 things need to happen: snap elections, and those said snap elections to be scheduled at a time when I don't have something more pressing already scheduled. If these conditions are met, I will for sure want to get there. I haven't covered an election in Moldova for 12 years now. Last time it was in 2009. Some of the relatively famous footage many of you have seen worldwide from then has either been taken by me or by one of my colleagues. Those were fun times for sure. Anyway, so this is a wild card. Many stars have to align in order for it to happen. Another wild card is whether I'll be able to do the Gulag tour this year or not. While all of the connections have been fully re-established and Uzbekistan has been basically open since May, and it still is open as of right now, there's still the problem with Kazakhstan. The Gulag is still closed. I mean, it's amazing. So basically, when they open up the Gulag, I'll take immediate steps to schedule the tour. It is quite surprising to me, I gotta admit, that Kazakhstan of all three is the most panicked of all. Well, I don't know, it may have something to do with, let's just say that the Kyrgyz people have a Second Amendment and the Kazakhs don't. And the regime in Tashkent can't really afford to close the tap on tourism shekels, while the Kazakhs sort of can. Whatever. So it's a wild card. If they open up the Gulag before July the 1st, it's a strong chance we do the tour this year. But it has to be before July the 1st, so I can have the time to make the arrangement in such a way that I can be back to Europe before September the 1st, so I can then be in Germany. We'll see what happens. As for threats, as always, big tech censorship is the biggest one. I guess the second one would be legal harassment, which is a normal consequence for when you engage in judicial activism. We're prepared for both with all sorts of contingencies which we can afford entirely thanks to the continuous and generous financial support from you all. And hopefully you will continue to support this operation throughout 2021. Sadly, due to me being busy organizing the flattening of the ruling party here, I missed the term in June for the video celebrating 5 years of Freedom Alternative. On one hand, that's kinda terrible, but on the other hand, I'll have a lot more to brag about by June 2021. With any luck, I'll have to tape that clip in Sofia. Anyway, with all of that being said, Happy New Year to all of you. Many thanks for your support, and let's get this igloo going. The early 20s could be so much fun if we make it that way. Don't forget to subscribe, visit our website, and I will see you all soon, very soon, on the Freedom Alternative.